So this is the stock drive shaft that comes in the XC Torment. As we can see here, I have the VXL drafts on. So this part connects to the differential. This part goes to the wheel. So I'll show you what you're looking at there by coming over here. We'll take off the wheel real quick. So I undo this nut and we're going to just pull it off. Okay. In here we have the nut and a spacer. That's to give that space that's right about there so that you hit all thread with the nut to give a good fastening. Back here is where the hex nut goes onto the wheel to grab it and spin it. So this is the hex nut, it just pops off. And if you can see here, the hex nut has a bar line in. That's where this pin comes in right here. So that's the hex nut pin. So when you're pushing it on, you get it onto that pin all the way, and then it will squeeze on there, and then that hex nut goes inside this wheel cap hub right here to spin the wheel. So that's how that works. So if we take the hex nut off and remove the pin, we now have the pin, the hex nut. We can pull out the drive shaft. Now this is the Traxxas VXL drive shaft compared to the stock. As you can see, there's not much differences except a little dude here, and it's vice versa. So instead of the outer shaft being up top, it's down below, and vice versa. The problem with the stock is this part right here, the pin where you can't even see the silver pin like that one, that pops out, and it keeps popping this shaft part out. So this is what you would upgrade to get rid of that. Electrics also has some washers, but I never bought them or tried them due to the forum saying not to. So these are the VXL. So first thing is the inside of here, you have to drill it out so that it's a little bit wider. So a 5mm drill bit in there, and you'll get the width that you need to go right onto your axle shaft. Once you get that drilled out, the next step you have is just putting it on to your shaft. So once you get it drilled off, it should just fit right in. I have plenty of space, as you can see, but some models I guess don't have enough space, so you may have to sand this down a little bit because this is thinner when you're looking at how high these little tops are here. So when you put this on, it's just put it there and insert the set pin and make sure the pin goes in like so, and then tighten it down, and that gets it on your axle bit. So that's all you need to do for that one. The next one we have here is the actual drive shaft area where it holds onto the wheel. So this is the stock, this is the new. So if you look on here real close, you'll see the major difference is this little non-threaded space right here that's thinner than this part here, which isn't. It's thick. So your spacer as well as your wheel up here, and your spacer hole need to be enlarged to fit over that area so that it goes onto the hex nut all the way. I learned the hard way because I had the hex nut just on enough to where it would spin and act normal until I got up to speed, and then it'd strip it. So that's what you need to watch out for there. These are what they talk about when they mean ball bearings, like does the car run on ball bearings or bushings. So there's a ball bearing in here, and here's the other ball bearing, and it goes on the inside. So what we do is put the ball bearing on, and we slip this through, and you put that other ball bearing, and it tucks in there. And now you'll have your hex pin, but what I use are these Traxxas washers. Put one of those first, or two. I use one on one side, two on the other, just because of the way my truck's set up. And then you put your hex pin in. As you can see, this one can fit two. And then you put your hex nut up, and that helps with the wiggle room. See, even with the washer, there's still some there, but if you had two in there, it would take away that slot. So then your wheel would go on, and you'd get it on the hex nut, put in your washer, your little spacer, I mean, and then your nut, and that gets your other side. So it's just enlarging those pieces to get away from this. It's a very simple process. It goes right on and off, so don't be intimidated by it. Very simple and easy, and it's just a simple little set screw, just kind of like the pinion when we were doing that one. It just ties in there, and this is what the back of the truck looks like with everything off. And then this is that square knob I was talking about that fits into that little square right there, so when you pop it in, it pops in nicely. Now on the back here, you'll notice that I don't have the standard stock turnbuckles. I have adjustable ones. I traded these out with Traxxas. I'll put the part number below. These allow me to use a wrench right here to bring in my toe or out my toe, so that when I'm driving in certain turning conditions I can better attune my suspension and settings. So these are just little plastic bendy parts now with metal stock ones. They go right in there. As you'll notice, I use the outside hole, not the inside, due to the fact that this comes out a bit further and the engine won't be able to fit in because it comes rather close to there. On the other side it doesn't really matter. So I did that with front, and then there's a different part number for the front, because I did it for front and rear. So that's the front one to replace the smaller one. So there's different part numbers for these two parts. So that in itself is the rear part of the whole suspension and motor. It's really not that complicated, but I'll give you guys a heads up with how that works and how the VXL and everything goes. Hope that helped you. Have a good night. The next is the ECS here. It's a Dynamite. It's not made for brushless, so of course you'll have to get a new one there, but there's plenty of room to put a sticky down and put down a new ESC on there. I changed out, my next upgrade was to change out to TRX plugs instead of Tamiya plugs, so that I could take from the stock battery, which they give you, to go to a new 8-cell flat pack. Now I have foam inserts in here that you put in to make sure your battery doesn't move around and stuff. And I even have another one all the way back there. I could fit another probably 2 cells, I would think, almost. I'd be safer with one more cell added in a flat pack design, so like that 9.6 volt or 4 volt one that's out there in flat. You could do that with nickel metal hydrate. TRX plugs, they're not that difficult. So here is what it comes in the package. It gives you really good instructions. Basically all you got to do is not solder past that line, and you just scrape that area clean and clear so that it doesn't have gold plating on it, and you'll see copper. You want to heat up the pin so that it's hot, and then just put the solder down until it makes a nice little ball. Then let the heat go on that. Then take your wire and splice it and give it a little solder on the wire. Heat the wire up until the solder hits it, and then just press the wire down on top and press the solder pin on top of the wire with solder and the part until it all melts together, and then take the solder pin off, and you got it. And then all you do is shove them in there, and they tell you which ones go where for positive and negative, and all of a sudden now you have TRX plugs. So that's what I did with battery upgrade. That's the ECS. It controls the motor from the receiver. The receiver wire runs through here up to the servo for steering and receiver. So next we'll take that off and I'll show you that.